Welcome to What's New in SOLIDWORKS 2024. This episode is your place to take in the best of what's new inside the SOLIDWORKS 2024 release. So, over the past two releases, over 200,000 viewers on YouTube alone have taken in the launch of SOLIDWORKS right here on SOLIDWORKS Live. So, I want to start off by thanking you all for tuning in each year to learn how what's new in SOLIDWORKS can help you reimagine your designs. And this year, with SOLIDWORKS 2024, how are we helping you do that? By helping you work both smarter and faster, as you see in the lead-in teaser video for this episode of SOLIDWORKS Live. Each of the 2024 enhancements you will see unveiled today by our technical experts here at Dassault Systèmes will have those two things in common. So, as we take a peek at the agenda for today's episode, you'll see a lot of familiar territory. What's new in parts, what's new in user experience, what's new in sheet metal, structures, drawings, assemblies, as well as what's new in tools like SOLIDWORKS Visualize. Right? That's right. Everything you now see within a black bubble here is included with subscription in each new seat of SOLIDWORKS 3D CAD. And yes, I made no mistake there. This includes something called cloud services. So beginning just a couple of months ago, if you missed it, we launched one of the largest enhancements to SOLIDWORKS in recent memory. That's right. Today, as we head into the release of SOLIDWORKS 2024, each new seat of SOLIDWORKS on subscription includes, number one, the ability to share your 3D designs with anyone directly from SOLIDWORKS. Two, online storage that is purpose-built with CAD relationships and collaboration in mind. And three, full access to a suite of tools to help you manage engineering data, work through formal change actions and approvals, and keep project tasks in check. So all that. So for existing SOLIDWORKS users, the stuff you see on screen, you can gain all of the same benefits by upgrading your subscription to include cloud services today at what is frankly a very low cost. But before we get into all of what's new in SOLIDWORKS 2024, I wanted to take a road often traveled, a phrase that's probably uttered very frequently by our friends at Bowhead Corp, the creators of the amazing outdoor adaptive mobility devices you've likely been seeing all over social media for SOLIDWORKS 2024's launch recently. And that road takes me directly to SOLIDWORKS R&D. So SOLIDWORKS launch season, it is a fantastic time to check in with the R&D team here at SOLIDWORKS to hear about some of their recent priorities in, of course, helping our worldwide community of SOLIDWORKS users, you guys, actually work smarter and actually work faster by leveraging the abundance of features that we will see today. So let's take a look at my conversation with Senior R&D Director, John Sweeney. Hey, John, welcome to the What's New SOLIDWORKS 2024 edition of SOLIDWORKS Live.
Hey, Sean. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's awesome having you. So I always like to bring you on before we get into the new features and the new enhancements to talk about probably the biggest year-to-year focus in every release, and that's our commitment to software quality, right? So,
Yep.
John, what would you like to tell our worldwide community on this topic of performance as we move towards the release of SOLIDWORKS 2024?
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm always happy to come on and talk about this. Some people, it's not the flashy stuff, but I think our users, they care about quality, obviously, and performance. It's to
Sure.
me, as you receive software and you notice a difference in performance or quality, I think it's a great thing to be able to give to customers. So, we've been responding to what they've been asking for, which is, a couple of years ago, more quality, and we can see some of the discussions and some of the customers coming to us about performance with their massive assemblies or massive drawings. So, we are working on it, and it's so we kicked off. And if I was at World last year, and I talked a little bit about this, so I'm repeating myself, which is good because it's a multi-year initiative. We kicked it off, maybe around the beginning of the year. So, it's going to be a multi-year thing where it's going to be pulling in, pretty much every development team in SOLIDWORKS. And it's a two-prong approach. One is kind of from a big picture standpoint, what can we do to make a big leap impact, like, the moon landing kind of impact, right?
Mhm.
Things like in the past, it's been detailing mode or LDR edit mode, or the graphics, the render pipeline stuff that took multiple years. So big picture, I challenged each of our core teams with delivering at least one big bang kind of thing. And it could be a workflow change, a different way of doing things that gets more efficiency and performance for the customer, or an architectural change. So fundamentally changing the code, right, making the code do something different. So that's kind of the first approach, and we've got a great list of projects. We've done a couple of them already. Some are in SOLIDWORKS 2024, which is coming out in November, and then the list continues for our development period. We'll be trying to deliver some of them in service packs, and then some of them in 2025, and we'll see how the work will continue. After that, it will continue. And then the second prong is more of a pure code performance, like at a singular level, command by command. And the cool thing about this, I really do like this one, because our PD team, Nick, took this. He's the lead on the PD team. We have leaders in each team that are bringing together all the people, regular weekly meetings, and Nick took this part of the initiative and laid out a dozen different workflows that cover the gamut from I'm coming into drawings. What do I do typically in drawings? I create views, I add a section view, I do detailing, I switch sheets, and assembly. Again, 12 different workflows across what you might do with our products, from simple stuff like switching windows or selecting on the screen or moving your mouse over the tree. So again, it covers kind of everything you might hit as a user in a common day.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's really cool from that standpoint. And then we measured. We have some assemblies. So you're seeing here a list of the assemblies we're using. So a couple images here. They're blurred out because they're actual customer models. We've blurred everything out.
Sure.
But there's some massive assemblies. There's 40, 50, 60, 80,000 components in some of these assemblies. So we wanted real world big stuff that our customers are using and struggling with in some of their operations. And again, we're using these models, through these different workflows and measuring the time it takes for each discrete step, right? So undo operation or selection operation or whatever, switch windows or open.
Sure, stuff we all do, right?
Yeah, right. And again, we've never measured anything to that level. The actual discrete step with multiple different machines, again on multiple different models, and then again at a discrete level, we're going into each one of those. And Nick kind of made his own kind of user-based analysis of this seems too slow. So it wasn't a technical analysis; it was gut feel for him, and he's a very experienced person using SOLIDWORKS. He's one of our really good PD people. His gut feel, is this fast enough? And when he thinks nope, he says nope. He puts a big red dot on it, and he puts how many seconds or how much time he thinks that operation should take. What should a user expect? Like, what would be the reasonable? So some of the times are, there's some aggressive targets. We have very aggressive targets on these dozen workflows. But we just had our kind of kickoff meeting because we're wrapping up the development for SOLIDWORKS 2024 and kind of moving on to the FDs and the next dev cycle. So he gave an update of where we are, and it was fantastic. I mean, it's awesome. Really encouraging to see what's already in SOLIDWORKS 2024, the progress we've made on some of these workflows and the aggressive targets. So that's very encouraging. So yeah, it's a long haul, but we're, this is something we've been doing for, a long time with quality and performance focus.
Yeah, it's hugely important, right? Sometimes as you mentioned during these episodes, right? These what's new episodes, you hear about a lot of new features, right? Different modes, right? Maybe detailing mode, and those are so flashy, right? They're things that you look out for when you upgrade to the newest release, but a lot of times there's so much work happening in the background just to make this sort of common operations that by name have been in the software for forever, but are used every single day in a variety of different capacities. Like you said, switching windows, using the undo command, that you guys over in R&D are trying to make better year after year. And I really love that today we have so much data all the time at our fingertips, right? In every aspect of the world. But we still sort of have that human approach to development, right? Because
Yeah.
it's observable, right? Any software you're using, you can say, okay, this is performing up to my standards, or it isn't. A
Yeah.
lot of times it can be an A or B choice.
Yeah, and the one thing I think to keep in mind from a customer standpoint is that we are always improving on stuff we've already delivered. So, and I know because we had some customers in this summer that we were talking to about, detailing mode, let's say. Oh, we tried that. It didn't do what we wanted it to do.
Mm,
That it's an example of that same as lightweight mode. People that used it 10 years ago, or detailing mode, they tried it the first release.
sure.
It has, detailing mode has a lot more behavioral, functionality in it now to support working in detailing mode, and it's crazy fast. So, I encourage people to keep trying the new releases and try if you had a functionality you didn't like, let us know about it for sure. But try it release to release, go back to it.
It's a great point, and it kind of brings me to my next question, right? Which is this idea of intake, right?
Mm.
Some people might think, hey, software companies, they just develop software in a silo, right? They have ideas, they implement them, it's done, right? But you and your team, you often mention there are really a variety of ways that we intake feedback, directly contributing to overall software quality and year to year improvements, like we've been saying. And we recently held a SolidWorks 2024 preview event, right, at
Yeah.
the America's headquarter in Waltham. How was that?
It was great. And you started describing that the software company who doesn't take feedback. I'm like, that would just it wouldn't be enjoyable. Like, what do you want to release software and then
Kind
not
of suck.
not get feedback or not talk to people about what to do next? I mean, that sounds horrible. So, I think we really enjoy. It's a really fun part of our job, which I think people really appreciate. On our side, and I suppose on the customer side as well. That talking to the customers, getting understanding, what they're trying to do, what their struggles are each day. Hey, they're using our software to do this. It works not like I expect, or it's too slow, or whatever. That's the stuff that energizes us, and keeps us going, and makes it again fun to produce software. So yeah, the events. I mean, the events are phenomenal. I think I really look forward to them. I know the teams here look forward to it as well. We used to do a lot more before COVID, and we're trying to get back to as much as we can. But yeah, we have two events in Waltham. The first week with a certain set of customers, and another week with the Swuggan leaders, and it's great. It's a lot. Some of the same people come back each year, which is nice. So you got the relationship that builds, and then you go to the World's 3D Experience World, typically in February, and you get to see them again, which is nice. You get to kind of catch up at least twice a year. So yeah, it's really good. It's a good relationship, and it's nice to for us to see they bring their models with them. So it's nice for us to see their actual workflows, working with the software standing behind them.
That was one of the coolest things I saw from some of the footage that you guys are seeing actually as you're watching this. So Brad Meador, for example, from Altec, right?
Yeah.
So he had his trucks up. Kara Tucker from Gibson had some
Right.
of her guitar
Yeah.
models. Sanket Patil, who you guys have seen the stuff he works on every day with
Right.
the Bowhead RX bikes. But yeah, so you guys probably saw a really wide mixture of different types of assemblies and parts and drawings to
Yeah,
put in
there's
your
a lot
cars.
of different industries, industries covered in the two meetings we had with the customers for sure.
So
Yeah.
cool. Well, John, I always like to, again, I'd love to have you on before we get to the new stuff, because I think we have to remind, and I know our community loves hearing it, that just how much effort and thought, that we put into just keeping the software performing at the high up standard that our users have. So thank you so much for joining our What's New in SolidWorks 2024 episode of SolidWorks Live.
All right. Sure. Thanks, Sean.
All right, everyone, the time has come. What's new in SolidWorks 2024 parts and user experience? So this is almost always the first section we get into during SolidWorks launch episodes, since it affects almost everyone who uses SOLIDWORKS to design, right? And joining us today to unveil the very best of what's new in SOLIDWORKS parts and user experience is Mark Peterson. Mark, welcome to SOLIDWORKS Live.
Hey, Sean. Happy to be here again. Thanks.
Absolutely, man. So, Mark, what are some ways SOLIDWORKS users can design their parts smarter and faster inside SOLIDWORKS 2024?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it. I mean, there's we have that Bowhead RX data set, and we'll just start with that. And just use that to illustrate some of these points here. So what I want to do is just go ahead and open up this little pedal axle here to start off with. And we're going to get right into this. So, this is like a turn part, and I'm going to kind of rewind a little bit on this component, just kind of show you how I did that last step. We have this nice little profile here, and I want to cut the outside of this profile as sort of a revolve. And normally in SOLIDWORKS, we create that as a separate solid body and then do a Boolean operation. But in SOLIDWORKS 2024, you can work a lot faster this way by just simply selecting this checkbox in the cut revolve option that lets you flip the side to cut. So now I can cut that exterior portion of that component, and instead of having to do those multiple steps like I was doing in the past. Now, there's also, a component, like I said, it was turned. So we want to maybe have an idea of what sort of bar stock is going to be required for this. And in SOLIDWORKS 2024, we now have the option to use a cylindrical bounding box instead of just rectangular. And of course, we still maintain the ability to choose a particular plane, if you want to specify a particular direction for the axis of that cylindrical bounding box. Now this shows up in your feature manager tree at the top, of course, as you would expect, and then it also, makes the properties of this bounding box available in your custom properties as well. Moving back to that top level assembly, we have this component here where we want to kind of test out some different lightweighting options. So here we saw the pockets that we created in there, but we also have this option here, these triangular cutouts that go through the component. Now, as you notice, these are just in the center of the part. We need to pattern these in both directions. So we're going to do the sort of normal patterning operations. Select a particular direction, choose the feature that we'd like to linear pattern. Let me just kind of change my view here so we can see this a little better. And we'll just input our parameters, to set it up how we'd like to. Set the instances and spacing like usual. Now, the next step here would be to select a parallel direction and then re-input those same parameters like we did before, and then obviously check pattern seed only. This wasn't difficult, but it was just something where it was maybe a little less expedient. So now we've made that process a lot more succinct by being able to pattern in both directions with just a single checkbox there. I want to zoom into this component here as well. This is a little chain guard. It's connected to this gearbox at 3 bolt hole locations, which is a little unusual. Usually, we have 4. So, I've created this rectangular sketch profile here, and, we want to create these M6 countersink holes using, of course, Hole Wizard. There's no better way to do it. And when we go to our positions tab, instead of selecting a plane and picking points, we can now select that rectangular sketch. And SOLIDWORKS is going to add an instance at each endpoint of that solid geometry, as well as the construction geometry if you choose to do so. But I think my favorite aspect of this particular new enhancement is the ability to skip instances. So like I showed earlier, we only really need those 3 bolt hole instances. We don't need all 4. And so just like that, I can remove one, and it's going to fit into my gearbox exactly the way that I want to. So these are just a few of the enhancements. Of course, we can't go over everything, but I think, real quickly, we were able to show just how much faster and smarter you can work with SOLIDWORKS 2024.
There you go. Look at you using the themes appropriately, smarter and faster, right? Right, Mark?
Yeah,
I was actually just checking out the chat here, and so I see Flip Flop Adventures saying, I agree that is long overdue. In reference to Andrew Gross's praise of Flip Side to Cut. So definitely some fans of the new enhancements here, which is awesome.
And the name checks out. So
yes, I agree. It's almost like we planned them there, which I promise we didn't. It's funny, I didn't even catch that when I read it. Mark, I mentioned earlier, we start off with parts usually because they're fundamental building blocks of any SolidWorks assembly or drawing that any of you might be working on. But if you take a step back further, right, underpinning all three of those is the user experience, right, which is what John talked about just a moment ago of the software itself. How the software performs, how flexible our users can design and work overall by using SolidWorks. So, what are some ways we've enhanced the user experience inside of SolidWorks 2024?
Yeah, and exactly. Just like you and John were talking about earlier. I mean, I like to start with performance. I think I talk about this a lot every year because basically, our R&D and development champions over there are just doing great work, and you get free performance upgrades. So this year we're extending that performance pipeline checkbox by allowing you to accelerate the silhouette edges this time. So in this particular example, like on my laptop, it's about 3 times as fast, but on like a tower computer, it could be a lot faster than that. So anything that's rendering silhouette edges, you're going to be a lot faster with that checkbox enabled. And so here's some other things like in Sketcher. This is I showed this earlier, but this is how I actually created that sketch. Just a quick rectangle, nothing super special. Normally from this point, you would go to the Smart Dimension tool, either on the Command Manager or some other way. But in 2024, you're going to do it differently. You're simply going to select an entity, and then you get this little pop-up, this little gray pop-up. If you check that pop-up, you can now enter a smart dimension. That's a true smart dimension there. And it doesn't work with just single entities. So for example, if I wanted to do a control select between this vertical line and this angled line, check that out. I get to create an angled dimension as well right there. No need to start that smart dimension tool. It's important to know that this doesn't interfere with any of the already existing productivity tools and enhancements like this context-sensitive toolbar, which allows me to, of course, set these lines equal to each other to make a square. So that's a pretty incredible enhancement. It's something that we're all going to be able to use every day. Now, going back to this pedal axle, I did say this was a turn part, and a lot of times we're working with other companies to manufacture these things for us. And sometimes they need a different coordinate system. And the origin that we build in SOLIDWORKS isn't necessarily useful for them. Now, if I'm going to save this out as a step file, that coordinate system I just created, I may want to use that as the default coordinate system when I send that to my partners. So here in SOLIDWORKS 2024 in the Save As dialog, you now have an option to specify which coordinate system you would like to use when you save that out. And just to validate that, let me just open up the step file real quick. And we can see that here, when I turn on the origin, of course, we can see that in the view. Just rotate that around so we can see a little bit better. It's right there exactly where I expect it to be. And so that's a huge improvement. And I know, especially when we're working with people outside of our organization, that's going to be something that people are going to use a lot. So.
Yeah, so many good ones right there. I think my personal favorite is being able to select the sketch dimension preview. Which I think is something that SOLIDWORKS 3D CAD on desktop, we actually sort of borrowed, I guess you could say, from the X apps, right? Just being able to select on a segment and then select the dimension from that without having to do the smart dimension. That's super, super cool.
Yeah, we had that in 3D Creator, and I mean, bringing that over into SOLIDWORKS was a no-brainer. And I think that's incredible. It's really going to streamline a lot of sketch creation, especially because it's not just single entities or anything like that. You can do multiple entities. So, I mean, there's a lot of utility in that one particular enhancement. I know everybody's going to have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. So, Mark, that was assuredly a compliment to the stuff you showed there. But now I'm going to give you an accusation. I think you are holding on to me. I've read the What's New doc for 2024. I produced 3 What's New overview videos with 60 plus enhancements in them, which you can see right now at solidworks.com/what's new. Things like specifying a coordinate system during Save As, super nice. But you seem to have missed a huge Save As located enhancement in SOLIDWORKS 2024. Any idea what I'm talking about there?
I think so. You and any of our other Eagle Eye attendees today probably have noticed when I was selecting that Save As Type dropdown, there was an option for previous SOLIDWORKS annual releases. So let's head back to that component that we were just looking at. And again, just go to File, Save As. And in that Save As Type dialog, up there near the top, we're going to see SOLIDWORKS 2022 and 2023. So in SOLIDWORKS 2024 and beyond, you're going to be able to save back to 2 annual releases. So here, I'll just save it to SOLIDWORKS 2022. Of course, you can add a prefix or rename it, whatever you need to do, of course. And now let me just switch over here to my SOLIDWORKS 2022. And it's just as easy as, using the regular open or drag and drop, whichever way you want to open those. And it opens up exactly as you would expect. And the feature tree over there on the left-hand side is completely intact. It's not a neutral format. It is a true SOLIDWORKS file.
So cool. I was just checking in on YouTube here. The number of concurrents just spiked as soon as you started going into that. I know we've talked about it internally here for quite a while, but this is an enhancement. I know of a friend of the show, Jeremy Regneris, he mentioned, he's in the chat. There's an enhancement that our users have been asking for years. So we're so happy to be able to show it off to you guys today. But Mark, thank you so much for jumping on today. So for everyone watching, where can they see more great enhancements like Save's previous release arriving with the release of SOLIDWORKS 2024?
Yeah, so you did mention the website. So solidworks.com/what's new. Head over there, check it out. A lot of great information over there. And a lot of these videos and a lot of the enhancements, all of those will be here at this website, as well as going into, what are some enhancements outside of just the SolidWorks core software, like so for our 3D Experience products and 3D Experience platform. You may want to evaluate those, check those out, see what those are all about. But I would highly encourage you, just at the top of the page, click on this button to find an event, and then use these filters on the left-hand side. Just kind of filter down to your region and filter down to type of SolidWorks What's New 2024 event. And definitely check these out. If there's an event in your area, please see if you can make it to that. This is something that our partners put on, and they do an amazing job. It's a great opportunity to just kind of, hang out with other SolidWorks users, understand more about what's going on in the SolidWorks software, but also a lot of other things. They bring a lot of other technology and that sort of stuff to these events as well. I'll definitely be going, and so I'm going to do some here in the U.S. And so hopefully I'll see you at one of these events.
Yeah, hopefully. Mark, so that a lot of great filters on that page as well. So even if you aren't close by to an event, which you most likely are, definitely recommend you guys get out in person. You can look at virtual events too, right? Which is awesome. I do see in the chat Scott Wheeler saying need to integrate to prior release function in Pack and Go utility. So we might talk about that later. So definitely stay tuned, Scott. But Mark, once again, thank you so much for jumping on here at SolidWorks Live.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, everyone. The truth is, and I know John mentioned this earlier. SolidWorks, the software, and every piece of software that we create, right? It can't improve in a vacuum. We have a great R&D team, of course, headed by John Sweeney and others, but it takes multiple ingredients to guide the direction of improvements to SolidWorks workflows. So you think about, community ideas and engagement, new manufacturing methods, and more. All these things and more. They contribute to what we create and how we create when it comes to the goal of helping you work smarter and faster within SolidWorks. And this brings us directly to our next topic, next gen design, namely smarter, faster ways to improve the ways that you design within SolidWorks with all of the aforementioned in mind. And to show us the power of these next gen design workflows in 2024, I'd like to welcome on Noah Zeef. Noah, welcome to this What's New episode of SolidWorks Live.
Thanks, Sean. Happy to be here.
For sure, man. So, one major question I would have if I was a viewer today is if I can already do what you're about to show us inside of SolidWorks 3D CAD today, which is namely, make awesome looking 3D shapes. Why are we showing our audience any of this today?
Great question. And the answer is yes, you can still do all of this in SolidWorks, but continuing on with those themes that you mentioned, that Mark mentioned, you can now do it just a lot faster, a lot smarter, a lot more efficiently. And you could do that specifically with our cloud apps, X-Shape and X-Generative Design. So firstly, with X-Shape, creating ergonomic curves and free-form geometry is as simple as pushing and pulling parts of your model. You don't need to use all those complex surfacing tools. Really just using all of these vertices, edges, and faces allows you to create any ergonomic shape. And with updates we introduced this year, like working zone and soft selection, selecting any of those vertices, edges, and faces is now simpler than ever. And in addition to this, with X generative design, you can now use algorithmic modeling on the cloud still, which is becoming more and more popular for digital designers. And it just gives them more control over their design geometry. So we used it with this handle here to add a complex surface, complex pattern. And to any seasoned SOLIDWORKS user, they would know that creating this pattern in typical parametric software would take a lot of time. You need a lot of planes, a lot of sketches, and really just a lot of patience. But here you can create it in just a couple clicks. So yes, again, all these things you can do in SOLIDWORKS, but now you can do it much faster with our additional cloud capabilities.
Yeah, it's something that you and I know we've talked about, just off to the side that, in a certain CAD software, right, you can make almost, especially within SolidWorks, right, you can make almost any kind of shape, but questions like how long will it take you to create that shape? Will the shape be editable, like in a way that is practical? Do you have to be the top 1% of SolidWorks designers to be able to make these sorts of shapes? Those things are very pertinent questions, I think. So really, like you said, faster and smarter, but I think we're also enabling, I think, a whole host of other designers to be able to create these beautiful types of devices and products. So, with that said, just, beautiful looking stuff just now, but can you maybe take us through a bit more how you designed, once again, these beautiful handles to give us a sense of what that design process would actually look and feel like?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned, we used X generative design to create these complex handles. And the process for an algorithmic software like this is similar in some ways to a traditional parametric software like SOLIDWORKS, but it's also very different in other ways. You do have commands that are executed in an order, like a design tree or a design manager, but here they're called operators, and they could be connected in a kind of visual graphical interface. It's kind of like connecting the dots of different operations. And also, a lot of these operations will be familiar to parametric users. So for example, to create this pattern, I use the thicken, offset, and Boolean operators. These are all commands that SOLIDWORKS users have probably used before, but the difference here is those commands are algorithmically based, which essentially just means we have more control over their output. So the triangulate command that I used to split this surface into all these triangles, all the vertices, edges, and faces that are output from that operation are completely editable. So it's kind of like generating a 3D sketch that you can use to create almost any pattern you can imagine.
So I see here, clearly a lot of outside of SolidWorks design, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure people here in the chat, they're wondering, how exactly do we get these designs into our SolidWorks assemblies? And what about drawings, right? We have to manufacture these eventually. Can we annotate? Can we dimension these models for within drawings for manufacturing?
So do not fear for all of our SOLIDWORKS users. This is all made to work with traditional desktop and connected SOLIDWORKS software. So SOLIDWORKS can actually read the geometry from X-shape and X generative design. So whenever you use those applications, you could bring those parts into your SOLIDWORKS session. Here, for example, I'm bringing in that complex pattern handle that we made with X generative design, and we can use it just to create a standard SOLIDWORKS drawing. And because this is not a graphics body, this is not a mesh, these are 3D details that could be referenced and annotated for all your manufacturing needs. Also, it's important to note all of these parts are mateable. So you can bring this into SOLIDWORKS and add parametric features either with desktop SOLIDWORKS or with 3D Creator that Mark mentioned, X Design. And you could mate that with a completely SOLIDWORKS-based assembly. So even though we're introducing a lot of new design functionality on the cloud, it can all still be applied to traditional modeling methods that our customers are used to.
Super cool. So, Noah, it seemed to me that a large bulk of the body design here within those handles was done within X-Shape, right? You mentioned the X apps, the part design tool, namely within X-Shape, that allows you to sort of push and pull and combine shapes. Is there anywhere viewers can go today to get a deeper look at what X-Shape is capable of, and once again, what it feels like to use it?
Definitely. We have a great resource that we recently uploaded to YouTube. It's a playlist of basically how to create a bunch of models in X-Shape. And you could find it, we'll share the link in the chat. It's solidworks.com/made-in-X-Shape/playlist. And it's a great place to start with subdivision modeling. If you're brand new to it, if you want to, learn intermediate commands, advanced commands, it really has a little bit of everything. We have about 6 workflows uploaded now, and we're going to be growing. We're going to add 4 in the coming months. So we strongly encourage everyone to go through those workflows, get a better feel for sculpting, and hopefully, it'll empower users to add a little flair to their models and incorporate some ergonomic shapes.
Super cool. Well, Noah, my next request for you is to check out the chat. You have tons of questions in the SolidWorks live chat right now. Just tons of curiosity and interest about what our viewers have seen. And thank you all so much for asking questions and making remarks there. But Noah, to you, thank you so much for joining us here in SolidWorks Live to show us how you can use these amazing next gen design workflows, which we've also learned, right, can work in complementary fashion with SolidWorks 3D CAD. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
For sure. When you tune into yearly What's New episodes of SolidWorks Live, I think you rightfully expect to see a lot of additions to SolidWorks. But, sometimes technology is less about what is being added and more about what is being removed. And this next area, although we have added a whole lot of capability to SolidWorks subscription with it, is a great example of this concept. Simply put, what you are about to see with cloud services has the promise to remove the everyday friction associated with file management and design sharing, and to help us understand this huge shift here at SolidWorks and how it'll help you work smarter and faster, let's welcome on Steve Fick. Steve, welcome to SolidWorks Live.
Thanks, Sean. I'm realizing that you stacked me up against a very hard act to follow here with all that cool stuff that Noah just showed. But nevertheless, we're going to make this happen for sure.
Hey, do not sell yourself short. There is a lot more you can do with your 3D files and your 2D files as well with the power of cloud services, right? So Steve, right, as I understand it, we've very recently added some of these really awesome capabilities heading into 2024 to share, store, and or manage our projects from inside of SolidWorks. These are some game changers, right? When it comes to just overall user experience within the software. Can you talk us through what we've added in this area of SolidWorks today?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, joking aside, we really are excited about some of all these very cool features that are part of cloud services. And I would say first and foremost, we're excited to introduce this idea of being able to share your designs with anyone right from within inside of SolidWorks. So, just click a button, share a file, indicate who you want to share it with. An email gets generated and your supplier, your internal colleague just simply clicks the link and they open the design in a browser. And what's really phenomenal about this is they can add measurements, they can draw right on it, they can comment and then send it right back to you. And as a SolidWorks user, you're facilitating this all in the task pane. Not only that, but for customers who are looking to actually really store and manage their designs on the cloud, you can see what impact a change is going to have. You can have the flexibility to move your designs around in session into different folders and reorganize them. And you can have the ability to revise and collaborate on your designs as well. So no shortage of very powerful, very, I'll say accessible capabilities for the SolidWorks user for their day-to-day capability or day-to-day needs.
Yeah, the word you use there, capability. Like I saw right there, just a lot of capability with what you showed us today. But on the other side of that, I feel maybe it can feel like a lot of commitment, right? And maybe a lot of change from the ways that we probably work today. If we haven't downloaded this new feature set yet into our SolidWorks, does that kind of seem reasonable?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think you bring up a good point. First off, starting in this past July, every new purchase of SolidWorks with subscription has cloud services. So if you've made that purchase, you can enable it, download it, and start using it. But I would say to your point, when we tried to start making our customers aware of this, we wanted it to be very accessible. Meaning, you may look at it and say, really, all we want is kind of that modern version of e-drawings, being able to share a design and to collaborate without having to download viewers and things like that. And that's a perfectly great place to start with cloud services. But you also may look at it and say, we've been thinking about a better way to store our designs. Revisions have been a challenge. We're tired of moving files around in different folders just to indicate they're released. All those kinds of like things that come along with design that just aren't all that fun, to be honest. That's a great place to start with cloud services as well. And so you may look at it and say, those are all things we want, or you may say, this is just specifically what we're interested in. And it should be very accessible from that standpoint to get started.
I see Jeff saying, and this is kind of a funny use case, but when this first came out, I tried share a file with my mom. She's in her 70s and doesn't know what a browser is, yet she was able to open a 3D model and spin it around on her iPad within minutes. Very interesting story, Jeff. But it's true, right? You don't need of course downloadable viewers. eDrawings is great, but you do not need a downloadable viewer, and you could use it on any device, right? Use it on a traditional PC, MacBook, an iPad, as Jeff mentioned. So very cool. But Steve, just to be totally clear, right? The in software action that we saw, the button for share a file. What we saw, you reorganizing projects, badging revisions, all that. This works with your existing installation of SOLIDWORKS, right? This isn't like a totally different product or anything.
Yeah, no, that's right. In fact, it works with, one of the things I would say is we realize that there's often a offset between when we launch a product and when you actually, as a customer, are going to upgrade to the latest release. So what's nice about this is it works 100% with 2023. If you have existing subscription, you can work with your reseller to modify it or upgrade it so that you can have access to it. And then, like you mentioned as well, any new release is obviously gonna have it as part of it. But it fits this nice area where, if you're still on 2023, you can leverage cloud services if it looks interesting to you.
Very cool. All right, so that brings me to really my final question here, Steve. Where can I go to learn more about how to activate and access cloud services inside of SolidWorks today?
So a very key part of how we wanted to roll this was to make it hopefully very easy and accessible to you as our customer. So there's a landing page as part of the landing page where you can go in and see exactly how to get started step by step. And we broke it down by those key areas that you may also be interested in trying. So if you just simply want to try the share and markup functionality, there's a targeted set of steps to get you started and off and running with that. So that's a great place to start. Obviously, your reseller is going to be another great resource to leverage as well. And, just to plug their events, but there's no doubt that there'll be lots of content around cloud services for the What's New events as well.
For sure. And just like Mark mentioned, right, solidworks.com/what's new, that top blue bar, that blue banner, find an event, it's right there. So yep. Steve, thank you so much for joining us here on SolidWorks Live. So excited for cloud services.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
All right. So like Steve sort of joked, we are going back to 3D, everyone, which I know is what we're all so excited about, of course. And with sheet metal and structures in SOLIDWORKS 2024, I am absolutely confident that you will see a number of new SOLIDWORKS features that you are going to love. And joining us to unveil the best of what's new in sheet metal and structures in SOLIDWORKS 2024, filling in, by the way, for the incredible Andrew Gross today, is Brad Williamson. Brad, welcome to SOLIDWORKS Live.
Hey, thanks, Sean.
Absolutely. So, Brad, let's start with sheet metal design. I'm really excited to cover this topic because we have some net new features in SOLIDWORKS 2024 to show off, right?
Yeah, quite a few new features. So I've got a demo put together here that's going to string several of them all in one shot that I can explain here. So let's take a look here. I built up this cargo carrier for our bowhead cycle, and this is composed of some weldments and some sheet metal. We've got this liner that's composed of some sheet metal walls with some tab and slot features that will eventually weld up. Now, the first thing we need to do is take this long vertical wall here and just get a copy of it, another instance of it. And so I'm just going to use copy with mates. That's nothing new, but that's just the quickest way to get a new instance over there. Now, this was assembled with tab and slot features, but you see when I assemble that new instance, I don't have the slots already cut out. So what's new in sheet metal for 2024 is this new propagate slots option. So it's going to take from looking at that parent instance, it's going to propagate all the tab and slot features to those adjacent parts. So now everything's all set up. We don't have to make any manual cuts, and that thing's ready to weld up. So now let's look at this bottom plate of the liner, and you can see I've got this closed sketch here. What's new is I can take that closed sketch and use the new sketch-based stamp tool. Now this is great. We had really good, robust forming tool options previously, but what this really lets me do is just on the fly. It's super flexible. I can use any sketch. Then I just enter the parameters for the draft and the radius and so forth. One more real quick one here. The rip feature, which has been around for a while, but we've extended the utility of the rip feature to where I can now unfold conical and cylindrical parts. I just have to pick a circular edge and a reference point. And it does the work for me of creating that thin saw cut sketch or saw cut feature. So now I can unroll any cylindrical or conical feature without the manual cut that would have been required previously. So really nice, some big workflow improvements there.
I'm just recalling, Brad, when we showcased a lot of our what's new materials to our reseller partners, right, around the globe, as we've been discussing. I remember the stamp tool, the stamp feature was maybe one of the let's say top 5 favorite features, I think. And I know all of you here in the chat, of course, seeing the buzz here.
Yeah.
Whenever we have a new SOLIDWORKS feature, like a new name, new icon, something new to use, especially on the design end. It always tends to be a hit. So that's awesome.
I mean, we've had forming tools for a really long time, and they're great. They're really robust, but they do require some setup.
Yeah.
And what we get now with this sketch-based tool is you just draw it and stamp it. Really cool.
Very cool. So Brad, this section, of course, it's sheet metal and structures, right? Another area where we've made some great enhancements inside of SOLIDWORKS 2024 to help users design smarter and faster is within structure systems. So,
Totally.
Brad, what do we have to show there today?
Yeah, well, going back to our carrier here, a lot of times where you have sheet metal, you also have weldments. So let's build up a frame to go around that sheet metal liner. And what I'm going to start with here are just some reference surfaces. I've got a couple of flat surfaces and some reference planes that you're going to see here in a minute. So I'll go into structure systems, and I'm just going to highlight, box select these 2 reference surfaces, which is going to attach my square tube profile to the outer edges of those surfaces. And then I don't want this upper one here, so I'll just click on that and remove it. So those are my primary members. Now, pro tip here, you can hit the letter Q and it'll show any hidden reference planes. And this is going to let me skip the sketch and use these planes for creating these secondary members. It's actually going to intersect those planes with the primary members, and look how quickly it lays in those secondary members. So that's really nice. And while I'm still in the edit mode here, I can go back and just selectively remove any ones that I don't want. There we go. Okay, so now last year, let's look at the corner treatments, because last year we introduced this way of grouping similar corners based on a selected reference. Well, what's new in 2024 is SOLIDWORKS now automatically detects those similar corners. So you're going to see the little 6 little post-it flags there identifying that the 6 open corners. Now I can just go in and toggle through my corner treatment option for butt, miter, and this new open corner option, which is really cool here because you don't always have to weld stuff. I mean, if you ever use aluminum extrusion, you might just want a plastic corner connector. So now we can put all those corners together with that new open corner connection feature. And one last one, this isn't really unique to weldments, but I really like this enhancement. When you go into custom properties, you can now assign units to your length and mass and so forth. So for your cut list, I can put a length. We could go back into our weight property for the structure and assign units to that. And it just takes whatever your document property units are. Here it's grams. Okay, so there we go. It's made it a little bit smarter. But check this out. If I change the units, pro tip down in the lower right corner, you can change the document units. Let's go to MKS and go right back to your custom properties, and you see how it's updated to kilograms. So great application anytime you're using custom properties for your cut lists, for your bills of materials, notes in drawings, etc. It's just made everything just so much smarter.
For sure. Hey, Brad, I'm just checking on the chat. I see FunFam. That's the username there. The forming tools setup has been a barrier of adoption. I can't wait to try out the new sketch method. So there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
Very neat. So Brad, we just saw Steve Fick come on, and he talked about cloud services, which we're all very excited about, right? Some great new features there. So just out of curiosity here, right? We were just talking about sheet metal. Let's say I'm doing sheet metal fabrication. What are some practical examples of workflows that cloud services in that sort of example will make feel smarter and faster for us as SOLIDWORKS users moving forward?
Okay, well, if you're making sheet metal parts and you're not cutting them yourself, then you got to send them out to a fabricator. So easiest way to do that now with cloud services is just through the share a file that Steve just showed us. So right from within SOLIDWORKS, I can take my flat pattern drawing and save that out as a DXF or DWG. Actually, I don't even have to save it out. Cloud Services is going to convert it for me and share that through a secure link. Or if I want to specify a unique email address, it'll send it to that person. And on their end, they don't have to download any software. They get a secure link to the document. They can download it. They can view it. They can mark it up. All the conversation history is carried across with the part. And best of all, I didn't have to leave SOLIDWORKS to save out a file, to locate it, attach it, send it through whatever method. It was all done for me right there in SOLIDWORKS.
Yeah, super swift, super simple. So that was awesome to see what's new in sheet metal structures. Of course, to see a very pertinent example, one I'm sure a lot of us will go through here in the future with sheet metal within cloud services, for example. But shifting gears just a little bit, earlier in this SOLIDWORKS Live episode for SOLIDWORKS 2024, you might remember I mentioned that almost everyone interacts with parts inside SOLIDWORKS 2024. But you think about it, with products like DraftSite getting used by more and more 2D drafters and designers, and the enhancements I think you're about to show inside SOLIDWORKS SOLIDWORKS Drawings in 2024, I'm thinking that our community, our viewers today, they're probably going to be pretty excited about working with 2D files in 2024 all the same, right?
Oh man, drawings are always so popular for when we come out with enhancements. There's a lot of enhancements here. I've strung together some highlight reel style demos here just because there are so many things that I want to pack in. So let's have a look. When you talk about drawings, first thing that comes to mind a lot of times is dimensioning. So something new that we've done in 2024 is with chain dimensioning. So chain dimensions are great when you want to create this linear sequence of dimensions that are all relative to each other. What's new is that these dimensions come in auto-aligned. So no more manual steps there. But better yet, the text will offset itself whenever it's in too tight a spot that it won't fit between the dimension arrows. And the same goes for the arrows themselves. If it's too tight a spot, it'll automatically get replaced with either dots or slashes. So that's a huge time saver and really saves a bunch of manual steps of having to go back and manually align those.
Yeah. Anyone who's used drawings would say, right, that just like you said, that'll probably save a lot of manual formatting steps. So that's great. Those are some really great enhancements. What else do we have for drawings, Brad?
Yeah, staying on that same drawing, actually, there's a couple more kind of quick hitters here. The first one you'll notice here, when I start to hover over any dimension, it now highlights in orange whatever the attachment points are. Now, we've done this forever in parts and assemblies, but it's new to drawings, and it's especially useful when you have a really busy view. Here's one more. Have you ever needed to manually override a dimension?
Yeah, kind of like you're showing there, right? It's right within the property manager.
Yeah, we've been able to do that for a while, but what's new is you can now show that in a highlighted color, which is really going to cut down on any kind of manual mistakes. And then the cool thing is, if you want to revert back to the original values, it's just right in the right-click menus there. So very nice. It's maybe not a best practice to manually override a dimension, but there are going to be times where you just got to quickly one-off something, and this is going to be a good tool for that.
Yeah, it's kind of like overriding a bill of materials, right? It comes up. The question comes up. The colors thing makes me a little bit nervous though, personally. Because sometimes, right, maybe purple's already color that's been customized. Our SOLIDWORKS users out there, in the chat and around the world, you customize your interface. So can you control the color that is used for overridden dimensions?
Okay, so yeah, there's a couple things there. The first is there's a document level option of whether you want to display the color at all. And then second, of course, through the system options, we give you the ability to specify what color you want that override to be. So if you have your own custom color schemes, no problem. This is going to fit right into that.
Very cool. Okay, makes sense. So, doing a little bit of a callback to earlier in this episode, we saw Mark Peterson. He revealed this really neat new capability, that enhancement that allows SOLIDWORKS users to save files as a previous release so that they can be natively opened and edited. And of course, Mark was reviewing parts, right? So we saw a part example of that. Yeah. Does this new enhancement apply to drawings files as well?
Of course it does. They wouldn't do that to us, right? Yeah, this is great. When we do the save as previous for drawings, it works pretty much the same. It's just under the save as command, but behaves. There's a couple more considerations. So what happens when we have a drawing is when we do the save as, it's going to automatically gather up the references that are required for that drawing, whether they be parts or subassemblies. And what's nice here is it gives us an option to name the file with either a prefix or suffix, or I can hit that advanced button there and do granular naming or location. So I think that's really important, because we do know that a lot of users have to interact and share data with customers or suppliers that are on previous versions. But when you're saving out these prior release drawings, I think you want to be careful about the naming, and maybe name them something different, maybe store them in a different directory. Is probably a good best practice there, so you don't intermix your production drawings with the previous release.
Makes total sense, and that seems like a good best practice for me. As I continue to wrap my mind around this new feature, one thing I think of is what if you mentioned subcomponents. Of course, you have subcomponents in a drawing, but what if those subcomponents also have drawings of their own? Will it gather them up as well?
Yeah. So when you just save the drawing, it's going just top down from that drawing to all of its component references. So it won't see any subcomponent drawings. But hey, Scott Wheeler, I think you asked the question about Pack and Go. Guess what? They put it into Pack and Go. So when you go into the Pack and Go command, you'll see an option for saving as the previous, and there you go. It's a one-stop shop for taking your whole top-level assembly, all the subcomponents, all the sub-drawings, and generating that prior version package that you can then share with whoever downstream needs to get that. So really clever implementation of that.
Awesome. All right. So Brad, we have just a few more minutes. Do you have any other quick enhancements to share today?
Yeah, I actually almost forgot about these two. Let's go back to the drawings. I've got a couple more quick demos for you here. And I think in this next clip that we're going to see here, I've got the handlebar mechanism up here, and I want to put a note on this drawing view. So let's insert a note. And no surprise here, we've done this for a long time. The ability to put a custom property, just hit link to property over in the property manager. And then you can get a property like file name or part number, description, whatever. But what's new is that dialogue can now stay persistent. So I can build up these compound notes that mix text, multiple properties, and so on. So let's get the description. Let's go get the component weight. Let's throw that together in one note, all done in one step. So that's really nice, cuts down on some manual steps. But where this really pays off now is, let's say I go change the configuration of that drawing view, and you can see the properties all just update immediately. So no mistakes due to, manual text entry there. It's just all handled for me in one shot.
That is a great enhancement, right? In terms of just allowing you to work faster, like that just saves you so many clicks. But one thing I think in that little vignette, that little demo you showed, that made me a little bit nervous, I have to say, is how you change configurations. I feel like every time you change, or at least my experience, often when you change configurations on a drawing, it can be risky, right? Whenever I wind up doing that, I feel like I'll end up with a bunch of dangling dimensions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've modeled for any period of time, you've probably come up with dangling dimensions before. You delete a feature,
Sure.
add something, and your dimensioning scheme gets out of whack. So we've been able to deal with dangling dimensions on parts, pretty well, but on drawings, it generally means delete and start over. What's new here, let me switch the configuration of this drawing view. And you see there, I got a couple of dangling dimensions. Now all you have to do is right click and hit reattach. And this is great. It shows a red X. Here's a little pro tip, by the way, letter G, magnifying glass. That's an oldie but a goodie, but that lets me zoom right in on that area and reselect a new attachment reference. And now that dimension's healed up. Let's do the same thing over here. Letter G, I can grab a new reference edge, and now it's healed up that dimension. And it's super easy. A really, really elegant workflow to attaching or reattaching those dangling dimensions. Super discoverable too. When in doubt, right click. There it is.
Yeah, and so when you right click it just says reattach, right? So does that new reattach feature though, does it only work on dangling dimensions, or can you use it elsewhere?
Well, I kind of think it's a bonus feature here because it isn't restricted just to dangling dimensions. You can take any reference dimension scheme and right click and begin to reattach. So imagine your dimension scheme changes for some reason. You change a dimension reference or whatever, you can just quickly go in and reattach, no deleting, no starting over. And that's really ultimately what you want to get to, not having to recreate work.
Very cool. So Brad, we mentioned we've talked in a few different regards now about cloud services, right? How does cloud services amplify what SOLIDWORKS users can do with their drawings heading into 2024?
Yeah, well, right away, I think revisioning. Manual revisioning can be really tricky when you have to manage all the references of the parts and assemblies that go with the drawing. So cloud services just does revisioning. It's a breeze for that. But downstream of that, you think about when you revision something, well, what about the title block? So the title block and the revision block, well, that automatically gets populated because that data is just carried along automatically. So that's nice. That reduces any kind of errors due to manual text entry. And there's some other cool utilities too. Here's one, for example, this drawing compare utility that's in cloud services that will visually overlay the prior rev and the current rev. So you can use this little slider bar to go back and forth and highlight either in red or in green what's new or different or changed between two drawing revs. So there's just some really super slick ways to handle the otherwise kind of mundane tasks of managing drawing revisions.
Super exciting. Well, Brad, thank you so much for jumping on. You covered 3 major areas of SOLIDWORKS 2024 with sheet metal, structures, and drawings. So yeah, we greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, had a blast doing it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. At its core, SOLIDWORKS is a fantastic mechanical design automation tool, right? One of the biggest reasons, though, that it's earned this reputation is for its assemblies functionality. Seeing how components interact inside a system with rules and constraints, and the ability to run analyses like collision detections. These are all remarkable aspects of what's made SOLIDWORKS so useful to engineers all these years. And to help us reveal some of the best of what's new in SOLIDWORKS assemblies inside of SOLIDWORKS 2024, I would like to welcome on Jesse Sprague to this launch episode of SolidWorks Live. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me.
100%, man. So, Jesse, what are some ways SolidWorks users can create and manage assemblies smarter and faster in SolidWorks 2024?
Yeah, I mean, you set me up pretty well. I think assemblies are always one of those core things of SolidWorks, right? You're always building little bits, putting them together, right? It's always like that Lego scenario that seemingly every engineer has kind of started with, right? We all start with Legos, and then you graduate to CAD, and then you start putting things back together like Legos again.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of tools in SolidWorks that really do kind of make it feel like putting Legos together, right? You've got alt drag things together, or just control select, and you can get to your mates and things like that. But I've got a few enhancements that we can take a look at here, and the first of which falls right into that category. And that is mate references. And mate references are one of those things that I always find it really makes it feel like Legos, right? You can preset some idea of what the component is going to do once it gets into the assembly. You'll find that in 2024, this is enhanced even more so. First of all, the performance is very snappy, so you'll find that very quick. However, you'll also find that there's an option there, that checkbox that just went by, that lets you set this per name. So what that allows us to do is sort of pre-filter our pre-filtering, if you will, to try to build more smarts into that component, so that when it gets where it needs to go, it already has a better idea of what it's going to do when it gets there.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, like you mentioned, mate references, and I love. We were talking before the show about this. Mate references is a great area to introduce in this sort of show because while it might not be net new to SolidWorks 2024 in its entirety, right? In a lot of cases, we have over 300 concurrent viewers on YouTube, many more on LinkedIn, and hopefully over 100,000 will watch this episode within a year. You often find in conversation that it is a new feature to many people, like just mate references. And now we're sort of making them like more configurable in a sort of neat way in 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll notice that you can kind of, because it's like by name now, you'll notice that you can pick like that little dialogue popped up. So the example in the what's new literature is a good one. A knob that has multiple positions. I want to bring it in and have it snap, but I want it to snap to to the fourth section on this, or the fifth section on this. You've just got a lot more control and convenience and some extra speed. So definitely some nice enhancements for that. And to your point, Sean, if you have not used mate references before, it's a great time to start because you've got even more speed and control over that. So definitely a cool one to check out. And in this case, falls right under both of our categories, our high level topics, smarter and faster in this case.
So what do we have here? So it looks like our next area of enhancement is sort of similar in the way of this area of the software has existed before, but we've enhanced it, and maybe it's an area of the software that isn't often used. I'm sure a lot of people here in the chat today maybe haven't used before. Component references. It looks like it's getting some love in 2024.
Yeah, reference info is not always something that you're using on a regular basis, but I think probably with this year's edition, it will get used more often. I think metadata probably in general is one of those things that it needs to be as easy to input as possible, right? It's just one of those trivial little things that seems to get forgotten a lot of times. But with the updates to component reference information for this year, you'll find that you can very easily access them just simply by right-clicking, and you'll get access to everything sort of in a nice little table view. So you'll be able to add in all that information in one swoop, if you like, without having to go one by one, adding in that information. So we've talked about throughout this whole show the job that R&D has done in just removing friction in things, right? Making things easier and more accessible. That one is without a doubt one of those things. And like I said, again, with metadata, I think that's one thing that's particularly important, is that it's easy to edit. So, you can see within that table view, you're able to just copy and paste and add things in bulk, if you will. And it can come in really valuable, in this case with several similar components, or identical components, really, to be able to mark off, this one's a front one, this one's a back one, just reduces the chance of an error happening, right? You're adding in clarity without much extra work, which I find pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like John said. You know, if you have a simple statement like that, right? We're looking to improve performance. You know, you're upping clarity, right, in a software package. Usually, that's tends to be a good thing,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So, you know, Jesse, earlier in this episode, and I kind of asked the same question a moment ago to Brad on his topic of drawings. But, you know, we saw Mark reveal a really neat new capability, right? That enhancement that allows SOLIDWORKS users to save files as a previous release so that you can, you know, open and edit the files. And I know Brad gave a little bit of away, right? And the fact that you can do it with sub components. So we know in some way that we can save as previous release with assemblies. But are there any more details you want to give us just to get us extra excited about saving as previous release with assembly files?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Sean, you and I have been around the SolidWorks community for long enough to know, right, that this is one you've been asked a million times, and it was
Huge.
one of those ones where it's like, it's probably just the nature of CAD software, right? My answer was always, I don't foresee this changing, right? It's just kind of the way it is. And first of all, I just love that the way it is means absolutely nothing to SolidWorks R&D. They just go and figure out how to do it. So amazing that that's there. Obviously, something that people have been looking to do for forever. So very cool. But yeah, there are some specifics that kind of apply to assemblies. So as Brad mentioned, you know, references are very important with drawings as with assemblies as well. So when you're looking to back save an assembly, one of the things that I like about that is in the dialog box. So as you go to save,
I believe we have a clip for this, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Just saving his previous release. If we could show that within assemblies.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's similar to drawings. So you can picture in your head, but yeah, so you've got the option to check that on to grab all of your referenced files as well. Which is nice. You can add a prefix or a suffix. But the thing that I love about this is when you open this back in the other version, you know, you might expect some kind of, you know, dumb solids or something maybe, but it's not that. It's the SolidWorks file. So you'll see that the explode views come through, the configurations are working, all of the mates are retained. It is a SolidWorks back save. It's not some, you know, kind of trickery in the background that it's just a step file that's cloaked as a SolidWorks file. You know, it retains all of that good information that you need when you save that back. And of course, to Brad's point, there's a checkbox in the pack and go that will allow you to just choose a drop down what version you want and ship that out as well. So very easy to use. And I mean, in our testing, it's worked really, really well. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, that's a huge point. So I'm glad we covered it. Another thing about that particular piece of functionality, right? If like, and I'm sure this question will come up. It may have come up today in the chat, and maybe I missed it. But you know, what happens if you have like a net new feature or a feature that you can't save back, right? We present a dialog box, right, in that scenario where if it is something new and you're saving back to your releases, you know, let's say it wasn't in, you know, 2022, we'll kind of alert you to that, right?
Yeah, there's some messaging for that, and that was always my argument, you know, as to how would this even work, right? Because there's features that didn't exist when that software was created. So how would you save that back? But you know, they've kind of worked a way around that to say, okay, well, you can't access that if it doesn't exist, but you can still get the file to work.
Very cool. Super exciting. You know, before we move on to our kind of next question here, I know this is one that, you know, if you're able to go out to one of our VAR events, which are happening all about the globe, that one is surely going to get an applause.
Standing ovation. 100% of the events, there'll be a standing ovation.
For sure. So Jesse, I wanted to ask you, you know, what are some of your favorite things that we can do with assemblies in SolidWorks heading into 2024? Using now the power of cloud services.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, huge announcement. I'm really excited about that too. But you use the phrase "game changer" at the beginning of the program. I hate that phrase because it seems like everybody on the internet now uses the phrase "game." Like, I wear a watch now, and it's been a game changer.
It's a game changer. Everything's a game changer.
They say it's a game changer.
Doesn't take much to change the game, but this
right.
really alters the game here.
I don't know what games you're playing, but but to your point, I mean, I feel like we have a leg to stand on here. It really does kind of feel like that. So. I mean, the thing is with assemblies, obviously, there's a lot of things to track, right? You've got files that that are all important to know where they are, and what they're doing. I am not very good at file management, admittedly, and I've done enough tech support to know that I am not alone in that. So I think the thing that I'm most excited about this system is just the ease of finding things, right? So you can search and find anything. And I have adopted that method a lot more in not just SolidWorks, but just in daily practice, because the amount of data that we're dealing with on a daily basis is just expanding so rapidly.
Yep.
That the methods that I had used in the past of manually browsing for things are just not cutting it anymore. And again, my skills are poor in that area in the first place. I'm not very organized. So being able to search for that information and find all of the references and being able to tag that and filter that and get to everything that I need to get to, and also have all of that functionality just built right into SolidWorks, right in my task pane. I have been absolutely loving that. I think people get a little bit, nervous or scared when it comes to the adjustment there, because it's like, okay, well, it's an object-based system, and it sounds kind of scary. Like, where do my files go? But it really gives you a ton of flexibility on the other end, of being able to put things in folders, right? We just call them bookmarks instead, or move them around and not lose any of the stuff that you need, right? Everything is still right under your fingertips, no matter if you have a small amount of data or if you have a huge amount of data. It doesn't matter anymore, right? It really doesn't matter how much data you have. It's always right there and available to you, while you're working in SolidWorks. So that's what gets me excited about that part of it.
Totally, man. So, hey, before you go, I have to ask you about Visualize. So just for everyone watching at home or at the office, a lot of the renderings that you saw of the Bowhead RX were made by Jesse. Jesse is amazing at SolidWorks Visualize. So we have to talk about that before you leave. So Jesse, just real quick, what are your top 3 favorite enhancements in terms of what's new in SolidWorks Visualize?
I will blitz through them as fast as I can, I promise. There's some great enhancements in Visualize. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Visualize and what you can do with it. Excellent way to reuse your CAD data. For this year, we have a whole new format when it comes to appearance formats. So the library itself, the entire library, is reorganized through this DSPBR format. So the appearance format is all new. This format is fantastic because it's super capable, but it's also scaled down and filtered well. So you'll notice that when you're dragging and dropping appearances in, they're just filtered down to the appearances that the settings that you would need. But you can see, for example, in the full enterprise model, it is a very capable model. What I really love about it, as I've been using it, is just the drag and drop functionality that you can work with texture maps very easily, either with a single drag and drop or multiple drag and drop. It will auto load maps in for you. Very easy and flexible format to use, and I've absolutely been loving it. The capability to make some tweaks to maps directly in the software is amazing. They've updated all of this. So we can, fine tune the appearance once you get it in, even if it's an appearance maps that are already kind of pre-baked. So tons of great functionality built into that, and that has got a whole bunch of cool stuff that's coming that we'll save for another conversation. But a great format that's been added. The next thing that I really like about this release of the software is the manipulator itself has been updated. So really 2 things that you touch every time you go into a project in Visualize have been updated in a major way. Highlighting on every little piece of the manipulator is huge. It's more helpful than you would think. And you'll find that the whole manipulator has been kind of condensed into one. So scaling and rotating and translating all built into one single manipulator now. And we've added the functionality to use some keyboard shortcuts with this as well. So you can see you can activate that just kind of on the fly, which I will use the phrase that I don't like, but is a game changer. I use that constantly throughout this process of building the renderings for this year. And the cool thing is it works in both local and global coordinates. So you have total flexibility to move things around sort of at will. And some of the more complex renderings that I did this year were just, wouldn't be possible without that tool that I used this year to set some of those up. So great stuff there. Really enjoying those updates to the manipulator. Now, there's a few more that I kind of had a tough time picking what I would choose here. But the last one that I'll mention is the Sunlight environment. The Sunlight environment has been updated for this year with ease. So you just kind of right click, add in a Sunlight environment, and it's got all of the settings in there that you would need to tweak for this. You can rotate it around. You can select a face to say which way is north. Obviously, you can set the time of day and where you are. You can copy and paste your coordinates into it. It's a very easy system to use, which I like. And the coolest part is it's kind of built into the updated wizard for animations. So you can very easily make, a cool solar sweep, or take a look at your product throughout in a certain spot throughout the year or anything like that with just a handful of clicks. So really cool system. I had a ton of fun building, probably more fun than I should be allowed to have at work, building the rendering images for this year's project, and it's been the most effortless version of the software to use so far. So thrilled with it.
So cool. Well, Jesse, thank you so much for jumping on. I'll tease this a little bit later as we get towards the end of the episode here. But our live viewers will be seeing a lot of you once again in February, right? With 3D Experience World coming up.
That's
so
right.
If we hopefully we'll see you before then. But yeah, look forward to that. So thanks again, Jesse.
Yeah, back in the saddle. Can't wait.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, everyone in the chat on YouTube, LinkedIn. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in out there. Hey, before I move into a proper close and preview of what's next for us here at SOLIDWORKS, I want to extend another huge thank you to Christian Bagg, Sanket, Roger, Tatiana, and the entire amazing team that you're seeing here at Bowhead Corp. So, Bowhead Corp, I think all of you would agree, Bowhead Corp is the real star of the 2024 release. They were so kind in letting us into their facilities and showcasing how SOLIDWORKS and cloud services helped make amazing outdoor experiences possible for each and every one of their customers. So I absolutely implore you, head to bowheadcorp.com to check out all of their outdoor adaptive mobility innovations and follow them on their awesome Instagram page today. Now, if you are new to the SOLIDWORKS YouTube channel and you got some value out of watching today, please remember to subscribe. SOLIDWORKS launch season, it comes once a year, of course, but we are here on SOLIDWORKS Live throughout the year, providing tips on how to design inside SOLIDWORKS, most of which of these tips are actually delivered by industry members of our worldwide community. And this brings me to the third theme, really, of SOLIDWORKS 2024, one we really haven't spoken much directly about today since we've been so focused on smarter and faster, and that's together. So we'll be back in just a few months to explore how SOLIDWORKS and our entire portfolio can help you work with others without common hassles. You can learn how you can break out of silos with analysts, manufacturing, and much more with this episode, which will be the official second part of what's new in 2024. And speaking of together, two of our biggest community events of the year are coming up, one next month and the other, I just teased it with Jesse, is in February, and I know you guys know what that is. So first, this October, so next month, tune in for the community-run yearly event bringing together designers and engineers everywhere, and that is Slug Me 8. So that is the SOLIDWORKS largest user group meeting ever, the 8th edition. See, I'm very sure I got that right. Please check me in the chat there. But this live-streamed extravaganza will feature community build projects, SOLIDWORKS technical presentations, and frankly, a lot of laughs. So be sure to tune in for some of the best edutainment. Oh, Jesse likes that word. Best edutainment SOLIDWORKS has to offer. And yeah, February. It's not too far away. We're almost in October here. But this upcoming February, 3D Experience World is fully back in person. So join us in Dallas, Texas, for hands-on lectures and training on SOLIDWORKS, simulation, many other topics, breakout sessions by the best technical presenters in our space, and industry networking, of course, like you'll never find anywhere else. So you can check it out today at 3dexperienceworld.com. But yeah, thank you so much to all of you. Thank you to our entire production team, as well as our presenters today. And once again, like, subscribe, and we will see you soon. Bye.